It was a quiet Friday evening when our parents left town for a family wedding in another state. They trusted us enough to leave the house in our care. I was 18, legally an adult, and my younger sister Emily had just turned 16. We'd stayed home alone before, but something about this weekend felt different from the beginning. Maybe it was the storm rolling in or the weight of silence that settled over the house once the car pulled out of the driveway. The rain started falling by the time we finished dinner. Emily and I were in a living room, a movie playing softly in the background while we scrolled on our phones. Every now and then, she would glance nervously at the windows as thunder began to growl in the distance. "You still scared of storms?" I asked, half teasing. She shrugged. "Not scared, just uneasy. The quiet before the thunder always freaks me out." I laughed lightly, trying to keep the mood easy. "Well, you're not alone. I'm here." The thunder cracked again, louder this time, and suddenly the lights went out. The power was gone. Emily gasped and sat upright on the couch. "It's okay," I said quickly, pulling out my phone to turn on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness as I walked to the kitchen and grabbed a few candles from the drawer. Emily followed silently, her face pale in the flickering light. We lit a few candles and sat on the floor with some snacks. The house, usually filled with the hum of appliances and background noise, was now unnervingly silent except for the wind and rain outside. "I had a nightmare last night," Emily said after a while, her voice barely above a whisper. I turned to her surprised. "What was it about?" She hesitated. "You and Mom. You were both gone, and I was just here alone. No one came back." I blinked, not sure how to respond at first. Emily wasn't the type to talk about her feelings. She was always cheerful and smart, but quiet. I hadn't realized she was carrying things inside. "That's not going to happen," I said finally. "We're not going anywhere." "I know," she said. "It was just a dream, but sometimes it feels like we're all drifting apart, you know? Like, even when we're together, it's like no one's really present." She looked at me, her eyes searching for something. I didn't have a quick answer. She was right. I had been distracted with college applications, my friends, and figuring out what came next. I hadn't paid attention to how that made her feel. "I'm sorry," I said. "I haven't been the best brother lately." Emily smiled softly. "You've just been growing up. I get it. But I still miss when things were simple. When we built forts in the living room and had pancake sundaes." I laughed. "You mean when you made a mess with the syrup and blamed it on me?" She giggled and the tension began to fade. For a while, we just sat and talked about school, about growing up, about how we both missed Grandma's old house, and how Dad used to make us sing in the car. The hours slipped by like water. We didn't even notice the storm fading. Eventually, we moved back to the couch with our blankets and snacks. Emily laid her head on my shoulder, something she hadn't done in years. "Thanks for talking to me," she murmured. "Anytime," I replied. "You're not alone. Even when I'm busy, even when I mess up, I'm still your brother." She didn't respond, but I saw the smile before her eyes closed. I stayed awake a little longer, listening to her breathing even out as the rain turned into a soft drizzle. When the power came back on around 3 a.m., we didn't even notice at first. The house slowly returned to normal, but something inside us had changed. Over the next few days, our bond was stronger. We joked more, we cooked breakfast together, we helped clean up the garage, laughing at old photos and making plans for the summer. It was like we had found something we didn't even know we'd lost. That weekend became more than just time alone. It was a reset button. We watched old movies from when we were kids, reenacted embarrassing home videos, and even attempted to bake cookies from Mom's old recipe book. They came out slightly burnt, but we laughed until we had tears in our eyes. Saturday evening, we took a walk in the neighborhood. The sky was clear after the storm, the air smelling of damp grass and renewal. Emily opened up about her struggles at school, about friends who weren't really friends, and teachers who never seemed to understand her. I listened, realizing how little I'd known about her day-to-day life. We sat on the swings at the park near our house, the same ones we'd used as kids. The street lights buzzed overhead. For a long moment, we just swung silently, the chains creaking in rhythm. Sometimes I feel invisible, she said suddenly. You're not, I said. You matter, Emily, a lot, more than you know. She looked at me and nodded slowly. Thanks, Jason, for hearing me. Sunday morning, we made breakfast again, this time successfully. Emily even managed to flip pancakes without making a mess. We set the table with care, placing out orange juice, strawberries, and a small vase of wildflowers she had picked. It felt like something out of a memory we'd forgotten. When our parents returned that evening, they were surprised by how clean the house was and how peaceful everything seemed. Mom gave us both a big hug, and Dad ruffled my hair, commenting on how we'd survived the weekend. We exchanged a knowing look. We hadn't just survived. We had grown. Weeks passed, and life got busy again. But something was different. Emily and I checked in with each other more. We made time to talk. Sometimes it was just a quick chat over breakfast or helping each other with school stuff. But the connection was there, stronger than before. One Friday night, we revisited that evening with the storm. The power stayed on this time, but we lit candles anyway. We laughed about how scared we were about the cookies, the pancake syrup war, and everything in between. That night really did change things, she said thoughtfully. Yeah, I agreed. It reminded me of what really matters. She smiled. You know, I think it's kind of cool that storms can bring people closer. I nodded. Sometimes it takes the dark to appreciate the light. What happened that night wasn't about the storm or the blackout. It was about connection, about rediscovering family, about realizing that growing up doesn't mean growing apart, and sometimes the quietest nights change everything the most. That's the story I'll always remember, not because of the thunder or the flickering candles, but because it brought me back to someone I love and reminded me how important it is to hold on to the people who truly matter.